Hello all and welcome to the channel. The top 100 continues with 90 to 81. So let's kick off then. We have the first game, Stadium. What a very unique theme, this one. You are essentially taking control of this kind of American football team, not so much the players and something like basketball or base basketball, something like that. This is more the management of your VPs, which are your vice presidents here, and where you're going to send them. And you've got this interesting 9 spots where you can go and get equipment, you can get all these fancy little tokens. This was kind of a nice addition I played here. And as you acquire more of these tokens, you're trying to turn them into positions you can attain on this actual really cool looking 3D football stadium. So it's got these layers to it, and that's where you're going to get most of your points. You put in your purchases, you're using your money you've acquired to buy these little booths that can give you revenue streams, or go and get points on the actual football field itself once you've acquired these little green trophies. So it's about how you utilize these VPs, and it's confusing because you think VPs, victory points, but it's these vice presidents you have to get your head around. And the actual interaction is what I like about this game amongst the players, because you're jostling for position as to which actions to go to. And there's an interesting twist, because actions that don't get utilized will get one of these bonus tokens. So go into that location on the next round, or potentially future rounds, it might even go to a multiplier of 2, will allow you an immediate benefit by placing on one of these sort of 4 quadrants here, whether it's a star that's going to activate your players which you've drafted, or it's going to be some money, or just whatever it may be. It gives you that benefit. So there's this kind of figuring out where you're going to go, typical worker placement. You can go and spend money to get more VPs out, and you're just slowly edging away. And for me, I also like, it is about American football, and there's just a subtle element of you can go and get these players and you can go and get these workers, and they're all themed around, American football, and you can keep these, and depending on the stars, and they give you little benefits and break the game in certain ways. So just lots to like here. It's probably quite a difficult game to get hold of, and maybe it's unique to me, but I just think for that sort of theme, and it provides you that sort of running the business side of things here, it does a really nice job. So yes, Stadium. Now, plays 3 to 5. Shame it doesn't have a 2-player option. I believe I have actually given it a go 2 players with a variant. Yes, I played 2 and 3 players. So strangely enough, it says 3 to 5 here. 60 to 90 minutes, which is about right. It's a quicker game, and it's sort of light to medium complexity. I'd probably say medium. There's a few bits to try and get your head around. The rule book, takes a bit of work, but once you get there, I think you can have a lot of fun with this one. The look of it on first impressions, it looks a bit dated considering it's 2017 and some of the colours used, but actually there's a really nice game under this one. So there we are. Next up, we have a beast of a game, very complex, and this is Incorporated. Now, I wish this game, could just be a bit more streamlined, a bit quicker. And before I tell you what I think, the game in essence is about you are sort of managing these corporations, and you're trying to get shares on this sort of global environment here. And you've got a world map, which is super. I love games like that. And you're investing in market share in companies across the globe and trying to get more share in these different global markets. You've got like Europe, Americas, you've got China. Now, the actual aim, what you're trying to achieve, is pretty much market share, because that market share is going to get you into certain industries, and hopefully you've got shares which you will have when you've invested in these areas, for example the S&P and things like that. Now, once you've got dominance in that market, you're hoping to then profit from this. So you've acquired these certain industries you've invested in, and depending on what the global state is in the demand, you'll get multipliers. So if the demand in the world at that particular time is for industry, and you've got 3 different areas of industry across the world, then 3 times the 2 cards, if they're still out there, it's going to give you 6 revenue. You need this revenue to be buying more shares and get more dominance across the board. But what I like, it brings in really cool, economic aspects with this balance of power, which is a political sway over NATO versus SCO, I believe it was. So the globe is split in two, and you've got like the sort of American China, East versus West, and you're trying to get the affiliatory countries on your side. So there's a little bit of not a war game, but a little bit of power play. Something similar to like World Order, which has just come out recently. But in this, it's heavily focused on that market share and how you are, tit for tat battling 1 versus 1. It's quite streamlined and similar to Imperial 2030, but a lot more sort of going on here. And you're just trying to edge each other out and just get dominance over the board. Now, it would be much higher for me if it just wasn't so intricate and a big teach. I think getting this to the table, you need to be invested, and everyone needs to have learned it and read up on it, because it's a hell of a hard teach. Now, you've equally got these asymmetrical powers, which are superb, and they're simple. They're not too much to them, like, a game like Root or something. It's pretty much Big Brother player, you get to look at the deck a little bit, and your first, I think it was, you've got old money if you're playing in a 4-player game, so it kind of sways which abilities and corporations come in depending on the player count. But these are superb, and as I said, they're very simple benefits, but they change and give you a very different perspective on the game. You've got things like interest rates, and you've got bonds, so it's bringing terms that are commonly used in finance and in business into this game. So it's a proper educational tool. It's just a beast to try and learn and teach, and even after, I think I played this 3 times with 2 free players, it's just a long game, and I think you have to be settled in and get used to, investing that time in it. Now, 2 to 4, I don't think I'd want to play 4, just purely because of the length of play, but it's a shame because that's where the old money comes in, and they've got those extra workers to put out there. So tricky one. Now, it says 80 to 180 minutes. Good luck playing in this 80 minutes. It's a real challenge. It's definitely 3 to 4 hours, this game. And yes, heavier complexity, but lots to like in. I think if you do like Imperial 2030, you do like games like World Order, go and find this one if you just after something really complex and intricate here. So yes, Incorporated. Next up then, we have a game that's highly regarded and very sought after, and it's called Chinatown. Now, again, it's quite low down for such a very popular game if you can find a copy. And this game is all about, well, negotiation in a sense. The theme is around Chinatown in the 1960s. You've got like 6 rounds or so to go through. And it starts with you have so many plots of land, and you are getting businesses, and you're trying to make sort of synergies here of plots of land all clumped together to gain revenue. So the better plots you can get adjacency with, and the right type of business, and you complete them as such with the number on the token, you will get more money. And that's the name of the game. You want loads of money, and money gives you opportunities to barter with players and what have you. And it's a superb game, and again, it should be a lot higher. But the reason this one falls a bit short for me, and it's only, it's a big thing really, it's that negotiation on a table. Every time I've played, I'm there buzzed to get this going, and I love everything about it, that the dynamics of what should happen, but it ends up being a little bit competitive, and some people in groups are like, oh, this just isn't for me. I don't want to barter hard and negotiate over, tiles. I just want to do my own thing and make, something like Las Vegas where it just swings your way and you're building in certain areas. But you have to negotiate to get anything in this, and it just falls short with certain player groups sometimes. If you do find the right group and you've got friends who, you like to give and take, and you've made a sweet deal, then absolutely this is the game. Now, 3 to 5 players, 60 minutes, bang on. You couldn't have less than 3 players. It just needs that negotiation element. It is low complexity, and it is easy to teach, easy to learn. It's just getting the players who will, open up and get involved in it. And that's what makes this game shine. And if you can get that to happen, superb, folks. Now, there has been implementations. Waterfall Park's come out. I've not tried that one. It looks a little bit colourful and cutesy for what I'd probably want out of an economic game. Chinatown, as well, the look of it works, it's fine. I wish they'd do a re-implementation with just something a little bit more gritty. I've even seen, I think it was a Harry Potter version someone made, self-published, but overall, a really quality game if you're looking for that group dynamic and, you know, offering that negotiation, and definitely a step up. And a lot of people say things like, you know, you like Monopoly, well, give this a try. And I can kind of see where they're coming from, you know, in terms of accessibility and, well, not so much accessibility, good luck getting this game, as I've already said, but in terms of the rules teaching, picking it up. But yes, Chinatown, super game. Right then, we have a very nasty game up next, which is called The Estates. Now, I've only played this a couple of times, and I've played it, I think it was 3 and 4 players. It says 2 players to 5, actually, so be curious to see how this works with 2 because of the back and forward. But in this game, you are bidding, and you're building a new urban development, it says, in the city. But will your investments pay off? Now, it looks so appealing when you see this on the table. You've got these big chunky blocks of numbers, and you've got these roof tiles in the bag, and you've got this mayor little hat, and you know, colourful board, and you know, very simple components, but really ooze out and pop out. And essentially, you're trying to develop these sort of skyscraper type things with, and finish them off with rooftops on these 3 columns. And depending on which column is incomplete, that one will actually lose victory points depending on if you've invested in certain colour companies. The other 2 will score, and that's great. Depending as the game's gone through, you've had all these cubes laid out, you take from the sides, depending on the colour, depending on the number, you then bid. So one person picks one, you all bid on it, whoever wins it, and then this interesting aspect of, do you keep the bid or do you pay for the bid? So a lot of interaction of flow of money, which is great. And then you put the cube out, and depending on the number on the top, potentially could score you those victory points if you are one of the shareholders, and depending on where it ends up on the board. So there's a lot to like here, but it's this kind of take that aspect, and there's a lot of, you know, mean streak in this. Not something like shark mean, but it's just, you have to enjoy the bidding aspect. You have to enjoy potentially losing a lot of points if that third row doesn't come into play. But overall, production-wise, super, and it just adds a lot of fun to the table. And there's certain things you can, you know, use the X token to move one of these barriers if people have pushed your row further, because if they have, you have to complete all those. So, you know, a timing element as well. But lots to like here, and something a little bit different, more physical, more, you know, hands-on, and not that you're there trying to delicately, you know, balance these, but just looks more, you know, interactive and physically building these cubes. So I like the Estates, and well worthy being in this range in the top 100. Okay, next up we have London Markets, a game that on first impressions, I was looking at it, and I like all sorts of economic games, and obviously I wanted to give this a go. But even so, I was struggling to, you know, be enticed into this game. But once you get through a few rounds, it was really, really good. And it, you know, yes, it looks drab. Yes, it's got these little cardboard, what they call crates, and you're putting them out. Now, before I go on, the game is essentially just making the most money around London and these markets and these tokens and player abilities, and you're trying to maximize what they do at the right time. But the interaction this brings for the group was superb. Really surprising. Everyone enjoyed it, even though everyone went into it thinking, what are we doing with this game here? And it was very cheap. It was only like £8 to buy or something crazy in British pounds. So 3 to 4 players, 45 to 60 minutes. And it says it's lightweight, which it pretty much is. You got to get used to what certain player abilities do. Now, what I like is the timing aspect, the capabilities to get money from certain markets at the right time, or to place these crates out on different locations, or to maximize areas to get you the most goods, or when an area you really need is, you can't physically go there, you can go to the river and choose one of those different locations. And in essence, you're just trying to accumulate money, accumulate goods, and have plentiful cards, you know, an array of different goods, because you will be bidding on a closed sort of bid on these sort of token, what they call it, you know, it's like a sliver of cardboard, and determines the value of these goods from round to round. There's only so many. Sometimes the market's closed and you're not actually bid on anything, but you're going to potentially make some nice, juicy victory points that way. And you all secretly bid a number of cards. Whoever has the most of that particular good will acquire those points. And if one player, say, bid 5 cards and another player's just bid 1, well, everyone will lose those coffee cards, for example. The player who bid 5 cards is over bid. They'll win the points, but they've overbid, and the other player's like, right, great, I've only put one of my several coffee down, but next round I have all that coffee. So it's that interaction and second guessing of your opponents, which is really clever and really, you know, I hadn't anticipated that from the game, but that slight, subtle, very streamlined mechanic works well. I've heard people say this game is kind of rinse and repeat, and it is, but it doesn't overstay its welcome, and that dynamic amongst the players is really what shone out for me. So lots to like in London markets here. Next up, we have a very probably unknown rare game, and it's called Power Struggle. Again, a 3 to 5 player range here, 105 minutes. No idea why they went with such a quirky playing time. I do think it's a lot longer to play this one, purely because there's a lot of AP, there's a lot of figuring out, what am I going to do here? Now, what you are trying to do is race up the corporate ladder by bribing, conniving, and besting your arch nemesis, it says. Very true and very fitting to what this game is all about. Now, first impressions, again, you're looking at it, it's got very sort of beige look, it looks dated, it is from 2009, but there's a really clever game behind this. And what I like about it is you have arch nemesis, you've got these secret objectives at the beginning, and you're trying to sort of outdo them to get victory points from achieving these. You've got these tracks you're going up, and as you acquire, you know, various amounts of money, shares, and different department heads, you're getting, you know, a VP, and it's very simple. It's literally like something like 4 victory points, depending on the player count, and you win. But attaining those and deceiving your opponents, and they're watching what you're trying to gun for, it just makes every single point really tight and hard to acquire. Now, as you get these blocks of shares, you're going up that track and you're getting dividends back from those from round to round, which is giving you more money. And money is kind of the greasing of the wheels in this game. It's about how you bribe other people with this sort of secret, you know, bribes to get them to give you your card. And you've got loads of components as well, where you're building up these sort of offices with workers and managers, and you're trying to become these department heads to get, you know, power play and area majority to get into this sort of CEO range. And doing so gives you the potential to get 3 different areas, which gives you a point. Now, there is a lot really in this game to explain, but in essence, you're just running this organization, not so much running, but you're the people side of it, to get these department heads, to get up these tracks, and the power abilities you have with these cards, and that all sort of comes together by which department head you are. So if you're head of, say, communications, for example, you will then have the power to determine the order of event cards that come out. And that can be massive, as to you have knowledge and foresight over what is going to happen when in the game, whether it's, you know, share dividends paid out or whatever it may be. So I like how you're competing to get, you know, dominance and power over these different departmental heads. And it just all comes together to get those 1 point here, 1 point there. And it just does a lot of things well. And again, you know, it comes down to that player dynamic amongst everyone on the board there. And the 3 games I've had, and it took a while, and it kept you engaged through that sort of 2-3 hours. But we all had a lot of fun, and you're laughing at these crazy bids people aren't making or are making, and you're second guessing, well, how much have you bid for that? And where's everyone at? So, you know, it reminds me a little bit of QE with that unknown bidding and how much money you've all got and whose arch enemy is who. So I think if you like games like QE, you need to check this out. It's obviously a longer game, and it's not as crazy of like Zillionaires and all that lot, but lots to like in Power Struggle. Right, next up we have a classic here, The Pillars of the Earth. What a superb game this one, and the production still stands strong. It went out of print for a while, it came back. I can't believe people haven't sort of, you know, ran with it and bought all these copies, and it's had, you know, more of a print run. It's just faded off really. Now, you know, the artist here has brought us things like Stone Age, and it's got that similar art style, but done, you know, with a more gothic sort of construction type vibe. But in this one, you are, you know, you're getting these, what I say, you're producing, you're crafting, you're recruiting to build a cathedral in the classic worker placement. And it really is a classic worker placement. And you have this interesting, it's kind of where you're picking your your pieces out of the bag, and that determines the order in which you place these workers. And it's got a twist where you can immediately pay, money to not have your player last, and then it gets cheaper, and it determines, where you want the power players to get to those certain spots on the board. And they'll all play out from 1 to 14, whatever it was, and you can get extra, workers. You can get these cards which give you abilities to transfer like resources into to victory points or better resources. You can go to the market and get points, and you can get to places to sort of understand what the event will be in the future and navigate that. So in essence, the game is mainly about acquiring these resources, acquiring money and turning those into more money to just get more, win the game that way. The actual pillar and the cathedral itself, it's just for show, really. It's not. It's a round determiner of how long the game is going, but it's cool. It's just something different as a round order there. But lots to like in this one. It's a little bit dated. I'm not quite sure how enamored most new games to the hobby would be with this. It's like something like Stone Age, where it's just old school worker placement. But it just has a fond place in my memories and my plays of playing this, and it rightfully deserves a spot here as well. If you get a chance, definitely reckon give this one a go if you like worker placement in particular. Next up, wow, this is a bunch of beige games in this category this week. So we've got Navigador, super game, folks. Anyone who follows my channel knows that I'm a big fan of Matt Gertz, and this is one of his, better games for sure. With this one, you're sailing around the globe and you're managing your trade in the Portuguese colonial empire. So you've got this area of the board on the globe. And there's a host of things. You've got this rondel, superb. I love a good rondel. Depending on where you go on the rondel, determines your action, and then you can go so many spots ahead. Again, similar to Imperial and that type of game. And are you going to build ships? You need the ships because you need the ships to sail around, the coast of Africa here, and you need to, spend a ship once you move. And you need to, because you need a ship to remain in one of these locations to then trade with the port or attain one of these destinations in the various resources. And you need those to develop your engine, because then you're going to go to the market to get money, and you need the money to go and get more workers and more ships and shipbuilding. And it's just a very nice engine to this. You can also go and get more workers, and progressively, it's like a slow, not a race, but a methodical, navigation around the bottom of Africa, all the way up to, I think it's like Japan, and that'll trigger the game end. And for me, there's lots to like here. And again, it's a game you need to give a chance. From first impressions, you're like, how drab is this? But the decision process of, how many shipyard capabilities am I going to get so I can maybe go big on the ships? How am I going to utilize this market? What sort of trading houses am I going to have in play here? You've also got these kind of prestige tokens as well, which is similar to something like Concordia, but in this game it's using tiles rather than cards. And the more of these you get, the better multipliers. So you might have a 2 and then a 1, and that's obviously a combination of 3 times number of trading houses or whatever it may be. And I like that. You're strengthening your abilities you play through the game. You've also got instances where the workers are getting spent to do things, and you're having to manage that. So lots of different crunchy decisions, but it's not too complex. It's streamlined in a way where once you play a round or two, you know what to do. You've just got to try and achieve that and make your way around and get those benefits before your opponents. Now, I have played this 2 players and 3 players. Does work 2 players actually quite well. Would I play 5? Maybe. Depends on the player count. The player time. But I think it's a good player range here. If you can find a copy, I think there's lots to like here. And if you can get over the beige and the core mechanics, they're old school. And Matt Gertz has done a fabulous job here. So yes, I like Navigador. Right then, next up, a super game, this one, and it's called Planet B, because Planet A just wasn't good enough and it was in disaster, so they had to set up another planet. Now this one, corruption, a lot of dark humour, and it's all about this planet. Now 2 to 4 players, 60 to 180 minutes. This one typically is a longer play. It's 2.5, 3 hours, and it can be swayed by the decisions that the players make, and the locations you go to can essentially rush the game a little bit, but not too much. You're never going to get like a 60-minute game, and it's heavy complexity. Now, in this one, you are... what are you? You're investors, you're managing businesses in a future economy. But you've also got this political aspect where you're trying to be, or you will be, either the president, the vice president, maybe even a llama, or a 4-player game, the dodo. And depending on how you have managed to get votes into the bag, will determine how appealing you are to the population. And if you're the president, it's great. You're getting more victory points. You're getting the ability to take one of these cars, depending on if you're corrupt or good, and you make decisions which can impact everyone. They're only marginal, extra happiness or a bit more money or whatever it may be, but it just brings a lot of joy to the table. If you're a dodo, you're really not getting much at all, but you're getting something. But the way the votes work in this game is superb, because once you're president, all your votes have been wiped from the bag. So it's a catch-up mechanism for everyone else to have, more votes in the bag to have a better chance next time. But it's how you build your engine in this game. You've got the board, you worker placement not worker placement, but you go into these sort of 4 sort of different action slots, 3 or 4 slots, and that'll determine what actions you can do, because they differ from location to location marginally. So one location might let you put out these workies and go engineers or whatever they are. You got the orange and purple ones, and you need those workers, because they're going to go to your businesses and they're going to produce, things into better things, maybe resources or victory points or more workers, whatever it may be. So there's this lovely production chain of turning things into things to get victory points. And I like how the money in this game is flipped over, and that then represents your victory points. So it's crunchy decisions in this. Where are you going to go at the right timing to build the right building, to convert this into that? Just real mind-boggler, and I love that about this game. But it also has the aspect of fun with the voting, and not necessarily being the president is going to win this game, because building businesses can give you a lot of points, and as I say, build that engine. But it adds an element of interesting things to you. Can't let someone just dominate the voting. You can't let someone dominate the businesses, and you have to really think about when that vote's going to happen, and when are you bad, are you good, and so just lots of nice things to be thinking about. Now, I've played it quite a few times now, probably 6 or 7 times, and I've had a lot of fun, and I'd continue to play this. It probably should be higher, and I'm not quite sure why it's not. Maybe just because I've played it a bunch. If you'd gone back 2-3 years, I'd have probably been like, yes, this is the greatest game ever. Because honestly, it's a real adrenaline rush on that first play or two. And maybe it's just it has slipped down over the years, but really solid game. Planet B. Right. The last game we have got then is Terraforming on Mars. What a beauty of a game, folks. It's done wonders for the hobby, this one. It's brought so many gamers into it with this enticing look and what this has done. So, bravo to this game. It's a super game, and I've had a lot of fun. Now, it's similar to Planet B. It's lower down on the list, mainly because I've just played it out. Now, don't get me wrong, I've not tried all of the expansions. So, I've added the Prelude, various cards, and utilised those. I can't even remember what I've added now, but various planets, and there's a Venus or something, but I've added loads to it, and they do elevate the game massively. On the base game, what you're doing, you've got these parameters. You've got oxygen, you've got air, temperature, oxygen, and the sea on the planet, and you're trying to terraform it. And as you do so, you're going to get these sort of global points and TR rating, and get you more income. And if you like games that are about production and you're gaining things and then using those to get more things, that is what this game is about, as well as having this lovely board with just Mars on it that's developing and flourishing and looking great with these forests and cities and sea tiles and ocean tiles. So, it looks superb. The components are great. You've got these sort of gold and silver and bronze tokens that represent all the resources. But it's competitive as well, as you race to get these milestones, and a real competitive vibe amongst the players. And the cards are superb, loads of different variations. And it gets better. On your first couple of plays, it's like, wow, this is so powerful, this card. How am I going to utilize this? And they're still great. Maybe not as surprising once you know the deck, but even after 30, 40 plays, you're still like, yes, I can do this synergy, and I know what that's going to do, and I'm going for these certain symbols. And again, it's lower down for me because I have absolutely played this to the max. I think I've played it like 20 times solo. Probably less with multiplayer, but I've played it all player counts 3, 4. I like it probably 3 players is my preferred count. 4 players feels a little bit too long for my liking. 2's fine, but it negates some of the... Does it negate the milestones? I think it does on some of them. But it's a bit too obvious if someone's getting ahead. You can still have fun with, actually terraforming it, but you can tell when someone's got a synergy that's working. They're just massively producing energy or money or credits or whatever it may be. But overall, I think a really super game. There's loads more expansions to add in if you like what you see. It does everything well, and it's still up there, considering it's 2016. It took the world by storm when this came out. And, just a bit of a blurb, you are CEOs, it basically says, to make Mars habitable and build your corporate empire. 1 to 5 players, great player range, 120 minutes, which is, it's about right. I think solo games I could get out in about 60 minutes when you've played it a bunch. Heavier complexity, but I'd say sort of medium heavy. It's not like majorly heavily once you've started getting into this game and played it a bunch. It feels really easy actually once you've got the hang of it. It's just getting used to the symbols and what's on the cards and some of the milestones and stuff. But what a super game to end on today. And there we are, folks, another 10, and I can't wait to bring you the next 10. Thanks for watching. See you all soon.